Before we begin this list, I would like to say that this list comprises of real-life books as opposed to fictional books like the Necronomicon.
Humankind has long dabbled in the supernatural, lured by the promise of obtaining power and enlightenment. Several texts have been devoted to this practice, outlining complicated and mysterious rituals that were presented as the key to achieving communion with otherworldly spirits.
Over the centuries, many books have been written claiming that loyal readers and followers of the text will be bestowed with magical powers. In some cases, these books are intended to invoke demons or angels. In other cases, they promise to allow the reader enhanced skills or good luck.
While the concepts of magic and demonology have remained controversial throughout history, many such books were translated and compiled over time, extending their reach throughout several centuries. Here are the top 15 ancient books of wisdom and power.
Greek Magical Papyri. The Greek magical papyri from the 2nd century BC listed spells, rituals, and divinations. These included instructions on how to summon demons, open doors to the underworld, and protect yourself from wild beasts. Perhaps most tantalizing of all, they describe how to bind a spirit of the dead to do your bidding. Many of these pieces of papyrus are pages from fragmentary extracts from spellbooks, repositories of arcane knowledge, and mystical secrets. As far as they have been reconstructed, these books appear to fall into two broad categories. Some are compilations of spells and magical writings gathered by scholarly collectors, either out of academic interest or for some kind of study of magic. Others may have been the working manuals of traveling magicians, containing their repertoire of spells and formulae for all occasions. The most commonly found spells in the papyri are divination spells, ceremonies that offer you visions of the future. One of its most well-known passages provide instructions for how to forecast upcoming events using an iron lampstead, an offering of frankincense, and an uncorrupted and pure child. Among the papyri's most famous components in the Mithras liturgy, this ceremony describes how to ascend through 7 higher planes of existence and communicate with the deity Mithras. The first papyri series appeared on the art market in Egypt in the early 19th century. The major portion of the collection is the so-called Anastasia collection. About half a dozen of the papyri were purchased in about 1827 by a man calling himself Jean d'Anastasie, who may have been Armenian and was a diplomatic representative at the medieval court in Alexandria. He asserted that he had obtained them at the Thebes, modern Luxor, and he sold them to various major European collections, including the British Museum, the Louvre, the Bibliothèque Nationale in Paris, and the Staatliche Museen in Berlin.
Book of Soyga. The Book of Soyga is a 16th century Latin treatise on magic, one copy of which is known to have been possessed by the Elizabethan scholar John Dee. After Dee's death, the book was thought to be lost until 1994, when 2 manuscripts were located in the British and the Bodleian Library. The Book of Soyga consists of 197 pages, including Liber Algeria, Liber Radiorum, and Liber Decimus Septimus, as well as a number of shorter and unnamed works totaling approximately 10 pages. The final 18 pages of the manuscript contain 36 tables of letters. Amongst the incantations and instructions on magic, astrology, demonology, list of conjunctions, lunar mansions, and names and genealogies of angels, the book contained 36 large squares of letters which Dee was unable to decipher, otherwise unknown medieval magical treatise. During Dee's long trip to the continent, he sought to supernaturally contact angels through the services of a scryer, Edward Kelly. On the subject of the Book of Soyga, Dee claimed to have questioned the angel Uriel about the significance of the book and asked for guidance. The reply that Dee received was that the book had been revealed to Adam in paradise by angels and can be interpreted by the Archangel Michael.
The Munich Manual of Demonic Magic. The Munich Manual of Demonic Magic is a 15th century grimoire manuscript. The text, which is composed in Latin, is largely concerned with demonology and necromancy. The manual contains the 3 major kinds of magic found in grimoires: illusionist, psychological, and divinatory. Illusionist spells are meant to fool people into seeing things like castles or armies. Psychological spells are meant to leverage emotional or political power over other people, and divinatory actions are intended to extract information from the future or the past. The Munich Manual contains passages that describe sacrificing mythological creatures, but the most eerie component of this book is that it completely ignores angel folklore and focuses exclusively on black magic and describes classical exorcisms. Portions of the texts, in English translation, are presented in the Forbidden Rites as well, embedded within the author's essays and explanations on the Munich Manual in specific and grimoires in general. The book has yet to be published in translation in its full entirety.
Sworn Book of Honorius. The Sworn Book of Honorius is a medieval grimoire and defense of ritual magic, rumored to be the work of Honorius of Thebes, a mysterious, possibly mythological figure who has never been identified. The book begins with a scathing criticism of the Catholic Church. The Church, a staunch enemy of the dark arts, has been corrupted by the devil, whose goal is to doom humanity by ridding the world of the benefits of magic. The Sworn Book makes lofty demands of its practitioners. Only 3 copies of the book can be made. Anyone in possession of the book who cannot find a worthy magician to inherit it must take it to their grave, and all adherents must utterly forbear the company of woman. In 93 chapters it covers a large variety of topics, from how to save your soul from purgatory to the catching of thieves or finding of treasures. It has many instructions on how to conjure and command demons, to work other magical operations, and knowledge of what lies in heaven, among other highly sought information. Like many grimoires, it has lengthy dissertations for proper operation and seals to be used. By repeating long-winded orations, the practitioner is promised a wealth of abilities. These powers range from causing floods and destroying kingdoms, seeing into purgatory and knowing the hour of your death. Among its most malign spells are ones to cast sickness into whom you will, to cause discord and debate, and to kill whom you will. Its date of composition is uncertain, but it's mentioned as Liber Sacra in the 13th century, apparently asserting a high medieval date. Johannes Harteleb mentions it as one of the books used in necromancy.
The Black Pullet. Originating in France in the 18th century, the Black Pullet focuses on the study of magical talismans, rings, and special objects engraved with mystical words that protect and empower the wearer. It was reportedly written by an anonymous French officer in Napoleon's army, who claimed to have received the contents from a mysterious mage while on an expedition in Egypt. The book teaches the reader how to master the extraordinary powers from these magical rings. Perhaps the most interesting magical property claimed in the book is the power to produce the Black Pullet, otherwise known as the hen that lays golden eggs. The Grimoire claims that the person who understands and attains the power to instruct the pullet will gain unlimited wealth. The notion of such a lucrative possession has been reflected throughout history in fables, fairy tales, and folklore. The process described in the book is simple, yet the execution is complex and requires time, dedication, skill, and most importantly, resources. Figures which are provided need to be embroidered on silk squares, which are then used in conjunction with special rings for various purposes. The power of each talisman and ring is activated at will by hand gestures and the recitation of certain magical phrases. Among these invocations is a spell to call upon a Daedonum, a creature made of smoke and fire, who will bring you true love. If your ambitions are slightly more cynical, then the pullet also provides the talismans that will force discreet men to tell you their secrets, allow you to see behind closed doors, and destroy anyone who is plotting against you.
Pseudomonarchia Daedonum. Pseudomonarchia Daedonum, also known as the False Hierarchy of Demons, is a great compendium from the 16th century dictating the names of 69 demons. The book was written before the Lesser Key of Solomon and does have some differences. The The Pseudomonarchia Daedonum was written by the famed 16th century physician and demonologist Johann Weyer. The Pseudomonarchia Daedonum is a catalog of 69 noble demons, prominent members of Hell's monarchy, their specialties, as well as the methods of conjuring them. Other members of the demonic aristocracy include Hagenti, who can turn water into wine, Shax, who steals horses and robs people's sight and hearing, and Iligos, who can see the future of wars and the fates of its soldiers. It was very popular practice in the 16th through 18th centuries to write about demons and demonology, largely due to the fact that accusations in witchcraft were being cast about left and right. Scholars like Weyer and King James I of Scotland and VI of England were determined to understand the forces they may or may not possess. Weyer, however, was a devout Christian who approached the prospect of conjuring those hell-bound spirits with great caution. He omitted key details of the rituals and warned all those that had read the Pseudomonarchia Daedonum against imitating this foolishness.
Arbatel de Magia Veterum. Composed late in the 16th century by an unknown author, the Arbatel de Magia Veterum is a comprehensive handbook of spiritual advice and aphorisms. The Arbatel reads much like a mystical self-help book, stressing the importance of Christian godliness, productivity, positive thinking, and using magic to help instead of harm. Its kernels of wisdom include live for yourself, avoid the friendship of the multitude, and flee the mundane, seek heavenly things. The book is devoid of black magic and without any connections to the greater or lesser keys of Solomon. The Arbatel reveals a series of rituals to invoke the 7 heavenly governors and their legions, who rule over the provinces of the universe. The governors include Bethel, who brings miraculous medicines, and Phallic, who brings honor in war. However, the ability to perform these rituals is only for a person who is born to magic from his mother's womb. All others, the Arbatel warns, are powerless imitators. In addition to angels and archangels, the Arbatel mentions a coterie of other helpful elemental spirits that exist beyond the veil of our physical world, including pygmies, nymphs, dryads, sylphs, and sagani. A copy of the work was listed in the catalog for the San Francisco Mercantile Library in 1854. Although access to it would have been restricted, its presence indicates that it played a role in American folk beliefs.
Galdrabok. The Galdrabok is an Icelandic grimoire that originated in the 16th century, and it is a collection of 47 spells compiled by multiple magicians. It's especially important in that it gives a unique insight into the various religio-magical elements that went into a synthetic national tradition in Iceland all of the time of its compilation. Like most Icelandic magic of the period, the Galdrabok relies heavily on staves, which are runes that have magical properties when carried on the body, or carved on objects, or written out. The various spells consist of Latin and runic material, as well as Icelandic magical staves, invocations to Christian entities, as well as demons and the Norse gods, and even instructions for the use of herbs and magical items. Some of the spells are protective, intended against such problems as trouble with childbearing, headache and insomnia, pestilence, suffering, or distress at sea. Others are intended to cause fear, kill animals, find thieves, put someone to sleep, or to cause flatulence, or, to bewitch women. The majority of the spells found in the Galdrabok are apotropaic spells, which are remedies designed to protect the practitioner and heal various maladies.
The Lesser Key of Solomon. The Lesser Key of Solomon, also known as the Lemegeton Clavicula, is a significant grimoire of demonology compiled in the 17th century by an unknown author. This particular book is divided into 5 parts. The first part contains descriptions of the 72 demons that King Solomon is said to have evoked and confined in a bronze vessel sealed by magic symbols, and that he obliged to work for him. The second part explains the names, characteristics, and seals of the 31 aerial spirits that King Solomon invoked and confined. Their sole objective is to discover and show hidden things, the secrets of any person, and obtain, carry, and do anything asked to them. The third part concerns the angels that rule over the zodiacal signs and each degree of every sign, the relation with the four elements, fire, earth, water, and air, their names, and their seals. The fourth part describes how to make the almadel, which is a wax tablet with protective symbols drawn on it. The book has instructions concerning the colors, materials, and rituals necessary for the construction of the almadel and the candles. The fifth part contains a collection of prayers mixed with Kabbalistic and magical words in several languages such as Hebrew and Greek. It describes how the prayers must be said and the relation that these rituals have to the understanding of all sciences. It mentions the aspects of the moon in relation with the prayers. It also says that the prayers act as an invocation to God's angels. According to the book, the correct spelling of the prayers gives a knowledge of the science related to each one and also good memory, stability of mind, and eloquence. One of the prayers is said to have been called Artem Novum by King Solomon. Other prayers mention God Father, His Son Jesus, and the Holy Ghost, precisely the Christian Trinity.
The Book of Abrmelin the Mage. Written in the 15th century, the Book of Abrmelin the Mage is one of the most prominently mystical texts of all time. It's the work of Abraham von Worms, a Jewish traveler who purportedly encountered the enigmatic magician Arbatel during a voyage to Egypt in exchange for 10 florins and the promise of piety. Arbatel gifted his manuscript of magic to Abraham, who then passed it on his son, Lamech. Arbamelin's ritual, referred to as the operation, is a long one. It consists of 18 months of prayer and purification, which is only recommended for men of perfect health between the ages of 25 and 50. Women in general are discouraged from undertaking the operation because of their quote-unquote curiosity and love of talk, although an exception can be made for virgins. If the tenets of the operation are adhered to strictly and with unwavering devotion, you get in touch with your holy guardian angel, who will grant you a wealth of powers. Once this is accomplished, you must evoke the 12 kings and dukes of hell, Lucifer, Satan, Leviathan, Belial, and bind them. Thereby, you gain command of them in your own mental universe and remove their negative influence from your life. Furthermore, these spirits must deliver a number of familiar spirits, 4 principal familiars, and several more associated with a set of magical word square talismans provided in Arbamelin's Book 4. The magical goals for which the demons can be employed are typical of those found in grimoires. The practitioner is promised the ability to find buried treasure, cast love charms, the ability of magical flight, teleportation, and the secret of invisibility, to list a small number of examples. The book relies heavily on the power of magic squares, unique words arranged into puzzles. Like the Icelandic staves in the Galdrabok, these squares contain mystic and occult properties when written out. The word Milon, for example, reveals the secrets of past and the future when written on the parchment and placed over the head, while Sina brings war. The author warns that some magic squares, like Caste, are too sinister to even implement. The book exists in the form of 7 manuscripts and an early printed edition. The provenance of the text has not been definitively identified. The earliest manuscripts are 2 versions that date from about 1608, are written in German, and are now found in the Wolfenbüttel. Another 2 manuscripts are in Dresden, and date from about 1700 and 1750, respectively.
Bhagavata Purana. The Bhagavata Purana is one of 18 Mahapuranic texts of Hinduism. Composed in Sanskrit and available in almost all regional Indian languages, it discusses a wide range of topics, including cosmology, genealogy, geography, mythology, legends, music, dance, yoga practice, and culture. The 10th chapter of Book 11 begins with a declaration that siddhi results from concentrating one's mind in Bhagavana and Krishna, which thus resonates, but substitutes the concept of personal God in Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. But what are siddhis? Siddhis are spiritual, paranormal, supernatural, and otherwise magical powers, abilities, and attainments that are the products of spiritual advancement through sadhanas such as meditation and yoga. In the book, there are in fact 15 Siddhist words which are achievable through yoga and meditation, such as hearing things far away, being undisturbed by hunger and thirst, assuming any form, tolerance of heat and cold, knowing the past, present, and future, knowing the minds of others, moving the body wherever thought goes, and command over others. Experts think that by raising the Kundalini energy within, or by stimulating the internal psychic organs known as the chakra, these psychic powers and abilities will be manifested. But these siddhi powers are not strictly a function of the amount of energy you can generate. They are also dependent on the quality, purity, and focus of the energy generated. The exact century when Bhagavata Purana was composed is unclear, likely between the 8th to 10th century CE, but may be as early as 6th century CE. The Bhagavata Purana manuscripts survive in numerous inconsistent versions, were revised through the 18th century, creating variant resonances in the given language and across different Indian languages.
Picatrix. The Picatrix is one of the most important books ever written on astrological magic. Composed in Arabic in Andalusia around 1000 AD, the Picatrix is an encyclopedic work considerably larger than most other medieval grimoires or books of magic. It was translated into Latin in 1256 for the Castilian king Alfonso the Wise. It spans 400 pages of astrological theory, and alongside are spells and incantations to channel the occult energies of planets and stars to achieve power and enlightenment. One of the most influential interpretations suggests it has to be regarded as a handbook of talismanic magic. Another summarizes it as the most thorough exposition of celestial magic in Arabic, indicating the sources for the work as Arabic texts on Hermeticism, Sobanianism, Ismailism, astrology, alchemy, and magic produced in the Near East in the 9th and 10th centuries AD. The Picatrix is divided into 4 books. Book 1 describes the heavens and the effects they cause through images made under them. Book 2 describes the figures of the heavens in general and the general motion of the sphere and their effects in this world. Book 3 describes the properties of the planets and signs, their figures and forms, and how to speak with spirits of the planets. Book 4 describes the properties of spirits, how to observe and summon them through the images and suffumigations. The Picatrix is perhaps most notorious for the obscenity of its magic recipes. These gruesome and potentially deadly concoctions are designed to induce altered states of consciousness and out of body or even death. Such ingredients include blood, bodily excretions, brain matter mixed with copious amounts of hashish, opium, scorpion poison, and psychoactive plants. Examples of spells include those to win the heart of another, find lost treasure, safeguard travelers, bring friendship, expel rodents, increase wealth, and heal the sick.
Codex Gigas. The Codex Gigas is the largest extinct medieval manuscript in the world. It's also known as the Devil's Bible because of a large illustration of the devil on the inside and the legend surrounding its creation. The Codex is believed to have been created by Herman the Recluse in the Benedictine monastery of the Podlasic near Trudem in the Czech Republic. At the end of the 30 Years' War in 1648, the entire collection was taken as war booty by the Swedish army. From 1649 to 2007, the manuscript was kept in the Swedish Royal Library in Stockholm. In May 1697, a fierce fire broke out at the Royal Castle in Stockholm, and the Royal Library suffered. The Codex was rescued from the flames, and 359 years later, returned to Prague on loan from Sweden until January 2008, and was on display at the Czech National Library. About half of the Codex consists of the entire Latin Bible and the Vulgate version, except for the Book of Acts and the Revelation, which are from a pre-Vulgate version. Supposedly, the pages which depict the devil are rooted with evil, and it's said a curse is placed on the reader should they attempt to read any of it. According to one version of a legend that was already recorded in the Middle Ages, the scribe was a monk who broke his vows and was sentenced to be walled up alive. In order to forbear this harsh penalty, he promised to create in one day a book to glorify the monastery forever, including all human knowledge. Near midnight, he became sure that he could not complete this task alone, so he made a special prayer to the fallen angel, Lucifer, asking him to help finish the book in exchange for his soul. The devil completed the manuscript, and the monk added the devil's picture out of gratitude for his aid. In tests to recreate the work, it is estimated that reproducing only the calligraphy without the illustrations or embellishments would have taken 5 years of non-stop writing. The Key of Solomon. The Key of Solomon is a grimoire incorrectly attributed to King Solomon. It most likely dates back to the 14th or 15th century Italian Renaissance. It presents a typical example of Renaissance magic. The Key of Solomon is divided into 2 books. It describes not the appearance or work of any spirit, but only the necessary drawings to prepare each experiment, or in more modern language, magical operations. Unlike later grimoires, such as the Lemegeton, the Key of Solomon does not mention the signature of the 72 spirits constrained by King Solomon in a bronze vessel. As in most medieval grimoires, all magical operations are performed through the power of God, to whom all the invocations are addressed. Before any of these operations are performed, the operator must confess his sins and purge himself of all evil and negativity, invoking the divine protection of God. Elaborate preparations are necessary, and each of the numerous items used must be constructed of the appropriate materials obtained in the prescribed manner, at the appropriate astrological time, marked the specific set of magical symbols, and blessed with its own specific words. Book 1 contains conjurations, invocations, and curses to summon and constrain spirits of the dead and demons in order to compel them to do the operator's will. It also describes how to find stolen items, become invisible, gain favor and love, and so on. Book 2 contains various purifications in which the operator should undergo, how they should clothe themselves, how the magical implements used in their operation should be constructed, and what animal sacrifices should be made to the spirits. The Grand Grimoire. The Grand Grimoire, also called the Red Dragon and the Gospel of Satan, was discovered in the tomb of Solomon in 1750 and is written in either Biblical Hebrew or Aramaic. The 4-part book is owned by the Roman Catholic Church and is kept in the Vatican Secret Archives. The book is real because the Roman Catholic Church has officially claimed ownership of it, but has never let the public actually glimpse it. The earliest known proof of it comes from the writings of one Honorius of Thebes, whose existence has not been undeniably proven. The theory claims that Honorius was either Satan himself or possessed by Satan for the purpose of writing the book. It contains instructions on summoning Satan at any time, at any place on earth, for various insidious intentions. The word grimoire denotes a textbook of magic, any kind of magic, whether good or evil. A great deal of so-called copies are in circulation around the world, but none of these, the conspiracy theory claims, contains the true words of the actual grimoire. Theorists claims that the Grand Grimoire is itself supernatural, that it permanently resists burning, cannot be cut, pierced, penetrated, torn, or in any other way damaged or destroyed. It's the only book with the knowledge of how to summon Satan, with a precise ritual to be performed, and, in addition to doing this, it can summon any number of named demons. Being written by Satan, it details proofs of various supernatural miracles of the Bible, the precise location of biblical relics, and even contains Satan's personal sketches of the faces of Judas, Jesus Christ. Because it is in the Catholic Church's possession, the theory goes on to claim that every pope starts out as a human and then becomes possessed by Satan. once he is elected.